What's going on, everyone? We are back, and today is a very exciting day because I get to talk about probably the only build I feel like I know a very vast amount of knowledge of, because I play this every league, and that is the cast on crit Ice Spear Occultist. You know, Pox has Righteous Fire, Gazi has Minions, Ziz has EA Ballista. Maybe one day, if I'm lucky, I'll be known as the cast on crit guy. Or the cock guy. Maybe I should rethink this. But anyways, I am kind of nervous at the same time about making this video because I do not want to leave stuff out. I don't make build guides. I've never made a build guide. You know, I try to help people and answer questions as much as I can. And people have been asking, when are you going to make a cast on crit Ice Spear video? And I was like, okay, I will make one, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm incredibly nervous about this. But you know, I'm just gonna go through it, the build, the certain things that you will need, and hopefully it will just turn out pretty well. Now, before we get into it, I must mention this is not a budget build per se. You can get it started for probably between 10 and 20 divines if you're relatively savvy, but there are some things that you need to make it feel good. That, you know, fortunately gets cheaper as the season and the league goes on. So certain things are dropping in price now, even at the time of making this video, even though we're only about 10 days into the league. Now, what is cast on crit Ice Spear? Well, the basics are you are taking Cyclone and you are connecting it to cast on critical support. Eventually you are going to want an awakened cast on critical support at level 5. And we are connecting that to Ice Spear. And this is our main damage. So as we cyclone into things, you know, we do the little whirlwind spinny thing, we are going to crit, ideally get to 100% crit chance. So we are attacking very fast, we are critting a whole bunch, and we are casting Ice Spear into the people we are cycloning into. We also use a Cosper's Malice, Jeweled Foil, because one, it gives a huge critical strike chance against shield enemies, and also trigger a socketed cold spell on melee critical strike with a 0.25 second cooldown. We put Freezing Pulse in here, connected to Inspiration to lower mana cost, and we'll go over the mana cost, but that is one of the big hurdles you have to solve with this build. These Ice Spears are not free. This Freezing Pulse is not free, and when you're casting them constantly, this 25 mana adds up incredibly quickly, and we still want enough room for auras to reserve our mana. Okay, so it is very important that we get that in check, but it is a very mana hungry build, especially in the beginning. Now, the changes with the transfigured gems didn't do anything too crazy to this build. It only really did one thing, and that is the Ice Spear no longer has anomalous Ice Spear, which is what we would have used because it gave us some pierce. So while we're cycloning through people, the Ice Spear would hit the first person and then go out and hit some more people. Beyond that, that does not work anymore. So one of the major changes is to get the build to feeling back to normal, we either have to put on our gloves Projectiles Pierce an additional target enchant. It is a June enchant. It is 4 chaos. If you don't have it, you can go to the TFT Affliction bench crafting services tab. People will sometimes do it for free or ask for, you know, like a 5 chaos charge. You can put this mod on gloves and I believe a helmet. But other than that, no major changes. I have not tried the transfigured Ice Spear gem, the one that has, I think, 1 projectile, splits off. After something to try, I don't think it's anything mind-blowing if you swap to it, but we haven't tried it yet, so I can't really say. Same thing with something like Freezing Pulse. I have not tried it yet. Transfigured gem, I can't even remember what it does, to be completely honest. And then also in here we have Frostbite. That is just a curse that's going to apply. So I guess first thing I should do before I really start talking about it is just kind of do a mapping example. This is an unidentified tier 16 map that I can do all mods on this build, which is amazing because of the charms that the Affliction League brings. And we'll go over those in a little bit, but I have one that I cannot take reflected elemental damage, so it gives me the ability to do unidentified maps. I'm going to skip the league mechanic just for time's sake and just to show you how you kind of just cyclone and run through people. If there's anyone on this map. See, it basically just cuts through everything. That was a rare there, and he didn't last very long. Again, this is an unidentified map. I do not know the mods, but just showing off the fact that I do not have to worry about certain mods. Probably should have picked maybe a little bit better map for this. Maybe with a little bit more density. But again, you can see you just roll through everything. You're shooting projectiles constantly, and it just melts. It does great amount of mapping damage, and it does an amazing amount of boss damage as well. So you get the point. We don't have to go through too much more of this. It easily does enough damage, not to mention I am kind of on a higher end budget right now. So yeah, there is that. I also like to keep a couple of the Riving invitations handy. They're super cheap anyway, so I don't see really any point in selling them. Not because I think it's a great showcase of damage, but I think it is a good sort of damage tester. I could tell by how fast I melt him if, you know, how good my damage is going. If I don't always feel like checking POB and seeing specific numbers, just by feel, I can see this. So if you are melting this guy relatively quickly, that's how I know, okay, my damage is getting close or is in the S tier. So I'm just going to kill this guy quickly as possible. And you can see he melts pretty damn fast. Alright, so let's go over some points that you need to fix or take care of. First, we might as well get out of the way, the mana issue. Now, two things you are going to need, especially in the beginning. You are going to need rings or an amulet, at least 2 points of these. So either a ring and amulet or 2 rings that have either the innate non-channeling skills have minus to total mana cost, or the crafted non-channeling skills have minus to total mana cost. You want this as high as possible. You'll see I got a -10 on this and a -7 on this. You can probably get away with a -7 on each of these and still be okay. That is going to help a ton of your mana. Also, on the tree, you're going to want to go to the right and probably get these right here. These notes are going to give you mana per hit, and it's also going to give you mana leech. And then you will probably have to go into 10% of leech is instant. This is going to hopefully help your mana woes. Now, are you going to run out of mana sometimes with this strategy? Yes, there's a solid chance it will not fully sustain. If you're beating on an enemy long enough, you might have to run around for a second or to dodge something to do that. Now, to really fix it, though, what you can do as a last thing is you can get a flask with the enchant or the benchcraft reduced mana cost of skills during effects. Now, this is a June craft. I do not have it. I had to go to the TFT bench crafting section and get someone to craft this on a flask for me. Now, what I then did was I put it on my Global Critical Strike flask, my Diamond flask, which is also obviously very important for this build because we have to hit 100% crit chance or get as close to that as possible. And I put it on one that has a 34% chance to gain a flash charge when you deal a critical strike, and also use when charges reach full, which is a craft that if you finish the campaign you should all have. That craft is at the very end of Act 10. It is the first craft you get after you beat the campaign, the flask crafts. So what this does is I'm gaining flask very quickly because I'm critting all the time. This stays up for as long as possible, ideally all the time, whether I'm hitting a single target or just running through maps anyways. This is going to help your mana immensely. Now, while I fought the hunger boss just a little bit ago, I'm obviously not editing this as I'm recording this, but I'm assuming my mana stayed high enough that I was still casting the entire time, or ideally it barely moved at all because this flask was up a great deal of time. Now, eventually, if you are a rich boy and you get a mage blood or something like that, and then you can put this with 70% increased effect using an enkindling orb, that is going to not only increase the reduced mana cost, it gives you the ability to drop some of these, drop all of them, I think, usually, or maybe just have one of these, saves some skill points, you know, and that saves you 3 to 4 points if you have the 10% of bleach is instant. I do not need this because of this flask, but that is the main way that you deal with the mana issues of this build. Now, another thing that you have to worry about is your trigger rate. Now, a lot of people get confused by this, but for this build's sake, I'm just going to give a TLDR and tell you the numbers that you want to hit. Now, the trigger rate is kind of a combination of your attack speed and your cooldown reduction. So as you're hitting people and you have a 100% crit chance or very close to it, if you are hitting constantly, but your ice spear is not coming off cooldown fast enough, yet you are hitting like constantly, it screws a lot of things up and doesn't brick the build, but makes it feel pretty bad. Which means too much attack speed can be a problem for this build. Now, it's not easy to have that be a problem if you are hitting the cooldown reduction breakpoint, but it can happen. I know especially if you get a Mage Blood and you have an Onslaught Flask and then you have an Nerf Flask with attack speed, you can out-attack speed your cooldown and trigger rate, and it can be bad. But there is a way to check that, which we will go over. Now, to hit the top end cooldown, you want a total of 52%, and that is why Awakened Cast on Critical is pretty important. I highly suggest just starting with this. It is a little expensive. That's why this is not exactly a budget build. You can do it for lower. Your trigger rate is going to be lower. And again, I will show you how to check that in a second. But if you get Awakened Cast on Critical support, and then you have this Mastery, Critical Mastery with +3 to level of all critical support gems, that is going to bump this up to level 8. And that is going to give you, as you can see, supported skills have 31% increased cooldown recovery rate. Then you are going to want 21% cooldown on something else. How do I fix that? I have 20% cooldown on my belt. This is a garbage belt. It's a placeholder. I just need the cooldown and the strength, and then it gives me a little bit of energy shield. Elemental damage. This belt is pretty garbage, but it does give me 20% cooldown. But you need 21 to hit the trigger cap that I want. So I get another 2% from this jewel, 2% increased cooldown recovery rate. You can also get cooldown on your boots pretty easily. You can do a combination of the two. I don't use that because I'm using New Relic Catch. We'll go over that in a little bit. So that puts me at 22% cooldown. You only need 21. I just have a jewel with 22. It's not a big deal if you go over. In fact, it means literally nothing. Now, what this does going into the POB is when you go to calculations and you go to Cyclone Ice Spear and you select Ice Spear, you will see that my trigger rate cap is at 10.1. So you want to get as close to this without going over as possible. This is Price is Right rules, okay? As soon as you go over that 10.1, you screw yourself. See, now I need more attack speed to get the trigger rate a little capped. I have Onslaught from my Spectre, which we'll go over. So mine is not capped. I could use some more attack speed somewhere. I just have not done it yet. But the key is I am not above this, okay? Now, say you didn't get the cooldown that you need, and it's a little lower. So say if I get rid of this 2% increased cooldown recovery rate, you will see my trigger rate goes down to 7.58. I'm actually over it. So I would have to get rid of some, a little bit of attack speed to get myself onto that trigger rate. It's not the end of the world, but try and get this up to that 10.1 cap. You can actually go higher than 10.1 with a lot more cooldown. It is not easy to do, and it probably is not worth it. So I would just shoot for the 52%. Alright, a quick overview of the items. We already went over the Cosprey and the critical strike and the trigger a cold spell that we sock it with. Now, you may notice that the intelligence and dexterity costs are incredibly high. You need 257 intelligence, 212 dex. The intelligence is not hard to get. You are a witch, so you get plenty of intelligence already, but the dex can be very annoying. So you can see I get dex on both of my rings. You can also get it on your gloves, you can also get it on your boots, you can also get it on your helmet. But just know you are going to need a lot of dexterity to put on this Cosprey. I even have a +32 dexterity node in there that I cannot get rid of yet because I do not have dexterity on my gloves or my boots. And that's because I like using the Relic Cache. We'll go over that in a second. But just be aware of that you are going to need a good amount of extra dexterity. For the gloves, we are using semi-decent gloves with that pierce to give us, you know, a little bit better feeling of a move, help us with our clear speed, and just clearing out the map. Accuracy, you are going to want some accuracy. I get 400 from this and then another 200 from my helm, giving me close to 100% chance to hit, which is nice. Inflict cold exposure on hit. Obviously, they get minus cold resist. That's very important. We're a cold build. 4% increased damage per frenzy charm. It's kind of a throwaway mod. It gives me a little bit of damage. Nothing that important, but the cold exposure was. These are not amazing gloves. They are, you know, they aren't bad. They're decent. They're a good starting point. That adds lightning damage to attacks, and obviously the gain 3 life per enemy killed is absolutely useless to us. But, you know, the 45% increased damage with hits against shield enemies. It's also a good mod. The cold exposure also makes it so I can use freezing pulse, because before that I was using frost bomb because this gives cold exposure and the 15% to cold resistance that it applies to enemies with it. I like it a little bit better than freezing pulse at that point. But once you get cold exposure, I suggest dropping frost bomb and just putting in the freezing pulse. Plus it looks a hell of a lot cooler. The belt we already went over. It's kind of a throwaway belt. The life does nothing for us. The mana barely does anything for us. The 19% increased cold damage or elemental damage helps a little bit. I put fire resist. I just need it for the strength. I could probably take a point out of something and put it into strength and get a different belt, namely a crystal belt to give myself some more energy shield. I just haven't done it yet. Now the boots. I used the new Relikesh's Impatience boots. I don't even know how worth it this is, but I think they are very cool and very strong. I got one corrupted with 5% increased extra energy shield. That's not needed or anything. These were relatively pricey. I don't know if they are now. Let's get rid of that. 2.4 divine. But what they do is you count as having the maximum number of charges that you can have. Endurance, power, and frenzy charges. Now, so you'll notice with these on, it says I have one power charge and no other charges. But when it does calculations for other stuff, if I go into charges, you'll see I have 8 of 8 power charges, 3 of 3 endurance charges, and 3 of 3 frenzy charges. So that gives you the bonus of the charges. It makes it so you are always getting the power increase from the things like power charges. Not to mention it gives us certain nodes we can go into that usually in previous leagues I would not have went into. Namely something like Charge Mastery, 3% increased damage per endurance, frenzy, and power charge. Which would be, you know, 3 times 14. 3 times 14, so we're looking at what, 42% increased damage from one node. That is very cool. I think they are great boots. You can use ones that give tailwind. You can give ones that give dexterity and cooldown and resistance, and just fill it in wherever you have. This is not a hard fast rule. This is what I've been doing for this league because I really do enjoy these boots. But you can use, you know, whatever you want to fill in spots, add some attributes, what have you. I highly suggest getting whatever you do, getting a very high move speed on it or move speed plus tailwind. For the shield, we use Prism Guardian, which makes it so socketed gems cost and reserve life instead of mana. And then we put 3 auras into that to reserve our life. Now, so many people are like, how are you reserving 3 auras on your life? And they always miss the fact that on one of my jewels, I have 2% increased reservation efficiency of skills. You need this 2% to be able to reserve the vast majority of your life and fit 3 auras in. So that's how you get 3 of these auras on there that all have, you know, 50, 50, and another 50% reservation. You need that extra efficiency of skills. Remember, it cannot say mana reservation efficiency. It has to say increased reservation efficiency of skills. No mana, because remember, we're doing life. As well as getting the 20% increased life reservation efficiency of skills mastery node in the tree. Those are the 2 things that you need. So there are 2 stats that you just need like a couple percent of. And I so happened to just find a jewel. Well, not find, I traded for it. It was like 2 divines. It has the 2% increased cooldown recovery rate. It has 2% increased reservation efficiency of skills. And it had corrupted blood and not being inflicted on you. Killed 3 birds with 1 stone. It was a very lucky find I saw in trade. The 2 of these are required. The corrupted blood is not required, but incredibly recommended because corrupted blood is cancer. Like literally it could be cancer. I think that's like a metaphor for cancer. It could be corrupted blood. For the amulet, you are probably going to want to use a Presence of Chula Onyx amulet. These are around 2 divine right now. They eventually go down a little bit, but they are a little bit more pricey. But they make you a lot tankier. They give you chaos resistance, cannot be stunned, and then the 20% of maximum life is converted to energy shield. Because we are reserving our life, and because we are using chevrons, which gives us chaos damage taken does not bypass energy shield, that is why we reserve our life, because the chaos damage isn't going to one-shot us because we have such low life. Now, it does not make you immune like chaos damage or chaos inoculation does, but the chaos damage will hit your energy shield instead of your life first. So that's why it is. That's why we are able to do it. So it's not as good as chaos inoculation, but you know, it's great for this build. And we're saying, why wouldn't you go into chaos inoculation? Well, your life goes to 1. That means we cannot have these 3 auras that we use in Prism Guardian because we wouldn't have any life to reserve for them. It's just all around a great. It's all around a great shield. But the Julia Amulet, that's going to make you tankier. The newer Replica Dragon Fang's Flight, that gives you +3 to a certain skill, with +3 to Ice Spear gems. Ice Spear scales very well off of levels. This obviously makes you lose a bunch of energy shield. As you can see, I swap them in and out depending on what I'm doing, but my energy shield goes down to 3,110. Now this has the added effect of giving me a little bit more mana from reservation, efficiency of skills. Also, it makes the Cosper's Malice a little bit easier to equip because it has the 9% reduced attributed requirements. But I put Charisma on each of these for the allocation, or for the anointment, I'm sorry. And that will, I switch it up depending on my situation and how badly I need to be tanky. Mostly for mapping, I put this on. For the helm, in the beginning you are probably going to use Crown of the Inward Eye. It is dropped by Cirrus. It is a very common drop. It is very cheap right now. I think you can get a decently rolled one for about 5 to 10 chaos. They're all over the place. And this makes you very tanky between the soul, body, and mind transfiguration. And obviously, the amount of armor and energy shield it gives you, along with the increased maximum life mana and global energy shield. I highly suggest using this first. This very rarely will feel tanky with enough energy shield and some other items we can go over. It can feel decently tanky. I don't even like using the word tanky because it's still kind of a squishy build. If you're looking for a build that's never going to die or very rarely die, you might want to look elsewhere because you will die sometimes mapping. You know, a couple bad mods and you are going to take the piss. That's just how it's going to happen. But eventually, if you want to get more damage, you can go the more expensive route. I crafted this. It is a +1 max power charges and nearby enemies have -2 cold resistance, Blizzard Crown, and then I threw some accuracy rating on it to get myself closer to that 100% hit chance. I think my hit chance is like 97, 98%, something you always check in the POB. But, you know, if you get an extra 4 and 6, so about 600 accuracy rating, you'll be pretty damn close to hitting that. Not to mention, we will be using the Precision Aura. That will give us some accuracy rating too, and some crit chance. Oh man, I am bad at this. Okay, I'm starting to realize there's more to this build. As I keep talking, I'm glad I didn't think about that before I started recording the video, or I might not have ever done it. For the passive tree, pretty self-explanatory. You're going to go down here. There are a couple pricey items that you might not want to get quite at first. They are not absolutely required. You can still play this build without them, namely the Thread of Hope with the large ring. I do this so I do not have to put these points into the cold damage to get the Heart of Ice, which is going to give us penetrate, and that just means you have to use these 4 nodes to get to here, and that is not a big deal because this is still damage. It is not just min-maxed. This is just something you eventually do. Not a huge deal if you don't have the Julia. You just do not take these 2 points and you put them in here instead, and you have to make a couple sacrifices a couple other places. Another one is the Unnatural Instinct. It's going to give you all of these highlighted, whether they're allocating or not. See how it gives all the small passive skills in the radius. Keep in mind that small passives, not the big ones, it won't do. Things like Potent Connections. It'll do things like spell damage, increased attack speed, global accuracy rating, stuff like that. This is probably more important. Actually, this is. This I would get before I get this. This is kind of an embarrassment of riches kind of thing. This actually helps quite a bit with accuracy and attack rating. And also, you know, your damage and attack speed. For the clusters, these These large clusters I have, these can be expensive, or at least I have one that's expensive. I think this was 7 or 8 divine. But that's not the most important part. Most important part is you want to get yourself jewels with basics of pain and pressure points. Getting these is what is going to skyrocket your critical strike chance and your damage. You can see pressure points gives you a chance to deal double damage, and the basics of pain gives you increased critical strike chance. You can see I actually have 4 of these. So these are very important. They're not insanely expensive, but they aren't really cheap either. You can usually get them at this point in the league, I think, for about 20 to 40 chaos. If you just shop around, and you can use other things, mods for it. Like, see, this one also gives +3 to strength. That's only going to be on one node, so it's not a game changer, but you can fill in little spots with things that you need, so those are important. But again, ideally with the large cluster jewels you want. Adds 8 small passives, blanket snow, prismatic heart, and a third modifier, usually widespread destruction. You don't go into widespread destruction. It just makes it so you can get the blanketed snow, prismatic heart, as well as the empty medium jewel socket allocated for as few points as possible. You can see I still have to get another one because I really want prismatic heart. So I have to waste 2 extra points to get that. Actually, 3 extra points, it looks like. Yeah, 3 extra points just to get that. So that is, you know, a wasted point. But again, I just have not bought a nice one yet. I just got one blanketed snow and prismatic heart with some chaos and cold resist thrown in there also. You are going to want to get all the power jars as you can. So we get the maximum power jars here. We get another one here. And we also get the jewel slot. Now, for the other jewel sockets, you want critical strike multiplier. This build scales incredibly well with critical strike multiplier. Your best in slot extra jewels are going to be global critical strike multiplier with elemental scales, critical strike multiplier with cold scales, and maximum energy shield. So if this, instead of critical strike chance with fire scales, was crit multi with cold skills, that would be ideal, but they are very expensive. Even 10 days into the league, they are kind of hard to find, and if you do, they are very expensive, and they stay pretty damn expensive throughout the entire league. So just get 1 or 2 crit multi-mods if you can, and obviously maximum energy shield to make sure you are dying a little bit less is always a plus, but you're going to want those, as many of them as possible. It doesn't sound like a lot, but the crit multi scales insanely with this build. Okay, that is how one league I hit 280 million DPS was with, you know, min-maxing the jewels mostly, and some, you know, other stuff like plus the levels. For the Watcher's Eye, ideally you are going to want 2 things on them, but with both of them it is very expensive. And that is the flat base crit chance while affected by hatred. Don't let the 1.45% fool you. Think, oh wow, that doesn't sound like a lot. It is base crit chance, it scales, and it is a lot of crit chance. It is very important that you get this crit chance in some way, shape, or form. Another thing that is really, I call it the break point of making the build feel less squishy, is when you can get a gain energy shield per enemy hit while affected by discipline. That is going to make it, because we are cycloning and hitting very, very often, very good amount of times, that gain 27% energy shield per enemy hit. It adds up incredibly quick. A lot of times it will keep you capped off, so as long as you're not getting 1 or 2 hit shot by things, you can stay alive relatively easily, as long as you're still moving and still hitting things. Now, getting both of these mods on a Watcher's Eye jewel can be very expensive. This is generally 20 to 30 divine through the vast majority of the league. Now, with the introduction of charms, we'll go to charms next. You can just get 1 for a divine or 2 that gives you gain energy shield per enemy hit while affected by discipline, because when you go and use the primal huntress node and start doing a quest that gives you these charm slots, you can get base crit chance while at maximum power charges. This gives a point. This can go up to +1% crit chance while at maximum power charges. You know, it does not go up to as high as the the Watcher's Eye can go with that mod, but you can use 1 or 2 of these to make up the difference, which is exactly what I was doing. These are not crazy expensive. You can just grab one of these. They are tradable. You can buy one and just throw it in there to give yourself the crit chance that your Watcher's Eye is missing. So this league, that's a little bit of a quality of life thing, that you can get that crit chance for cheaper while getting that tankiness energy on hit breakpoint. So I do suggest using the Primalist tree. The charms are incredibly powerful. I use 2 of the skills, fire and additional projectile. They are very expensive. When I bought these, they were 20 divine apiece. When I checked last night before I went to bed, they were about 32 divine apiece. You do not need these to make the build feel good or to make yourself do an incredible amount of damage, but firing additional projectiles is incredibly, not important, but very much so a luxury with damage. So I use 2 of those. In my third one, I have cannot take reflected elemental damage and critical strikes have culling strike, which means 10% life or lower. The enemy is instantly killed when I hit them at, when they are 10% or lower. And then the reflected elemental just makes it so I can basically do any map mod, because even when the player cannot regenerate life, the energy shield on hit helps me keep this topped off, and the mana on hit along with the reduction in damage makes it so I'm still not, I don't need to recover mana or rely as much on my mana recovery. So that is very nice. If you've never had a build that can just run unidentified maps and not worry about jumping in the first plaque and immediately dying from reflect or anything like that, it is incredibly nice. For the flasks, I am using a Surgeon's Sulfur Flask of Rupturing with some crit chance on it, and again, chance to gain a flash charge when we deal a critical strike when paired when used when charges reach full. This is very strong on this build because we are critting so much, and used when charge reaches full means I'm not mashing it constantly. Sulfur Flask with increased damage isn't a huge damage boost for this build. This is kind of a placeholder, not absolutely necessary. You are going to want to use at least 1 Quicksilver Flask for obvious reasons, and the one I have with use when charge reaches full is giving me some more attack speed to help me get closer to that max trigger rate. Now I am using 2, and that is because I run a lot of Sanctum. You do not need to run 2 of these. You can put a Granite Flask that gives you armor, or you can use the Evasion Flask for a little bit more tankiness. But again, I'm just using 2 because I run a lot of Sanctum, and movement speed is king in that mechanic. But use common sense. Use a flask that is helpful. And the only reason I do not have use when charges reach full on this is because I just want speed boost at specific times in Sanctum. So, don't be afraid to tailor your build a little bit to the things that you enjoy running. Use a Dying Sun Flask. This is, self-explanatory. It gives us extra projectiles, which ups our damage. I have an Incandling Orb on it with 70% increased effect. So it gains no charges during the effect, but I only use it and hit 5 when there is a hard boss or, a Sanctum boss or something like that. I have it up, and that 70% increased effect makes it so my skills will fire 3 additional projectiles instead of 2 during the flask effect. For the Ascendancy, we are going into Occultist. You want Unholy Authority for the additional curse. You want go into Void Beacon for obviously the Pierce and the reduced life regeneration rate. And then Frigid Wake, also very self-explanatory. And then you want Forbidden Power for the power charges and the extra damage per power charge, increased air effective power charge, which helps Cyclone get a little bit bigger. That's also pretty self-explanatory. For the links and skills, this is going to look a little bit different than it has in past leagues for me. You can, and what I will do is I will put my old POB from last league, my min-maxed one, along with the one I'm doing here, so you can see the differences. But I would say the major difference is how good Spectres are and how you do not need to be a minion build for them to stay alive. And that is because Spectres give you an aura now if you get the perfect version of some of these Spectres. So in the gloves, I have a 4-link with minion life, elemental army support, meat shield, and connected that to raise Spectre to just make them tanky enough to survive. And they survive through pretty much anything I have put them through. The only time that this guy died, and he has a perfect forest warrior, he gives you onslaught, was when I did a Valdo's puzzle box that was absolutely batshit crazy, and he actually died, and they still could not kill my turtle, even though it was an insanely overtuned map. Now you can find these in the league mechanic, the corpses, or you can trade for them. These are both pretty cheap. The perfect turtle is a little bit more expensive. The perfect forest warrior is a little bit higher. And what they do is they give me, he gives nearby allies the onslaught buff. It's going to give you more run speed and attack speed and cast speed. And the turtle gives a very high determination aura, which helps keep my armor relatively high. For some reason in the base, it doesn't seem to be giving me the aura. Once I ran a map, it would give me determination. And the onslaught, you would see it up here. Everything else is pretty standard. Again, I said you can lose Frost Bomb, put in Freezing Pulse once you are able to get cold exposure on your gloves. Inspiration for the help, with the mana, lowers your mana cost by quite a bit. I suggest getting this top quality so you get the extra 5% reduced mana cost. And then also you can lose Frostbite if you get enemies curse. The Frostbite on hit effect on your ring. That can be very expensive to get. I still do not have one. But once you do that, you can lose Frostbite, put in Frost Bomb back in. Then you have, even more damage. You're casting both Freezing Pulse and Frost Bomb. For the other 4-link spot, I don't even have 4 links in it. I have Mark on hit support with Assassin's Mark. This and Frostbite together are the 2 curses you use. Remember, you can apply an additional curse. Marks count as curses, so the Assassin's Mark counts as a curse. So you are going to do Frostbite and Assassin's Mark for critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier, because again, that is very, very important for this build, is the critical strike multiplier. I also have Herald of Ice for more damage, and I have Phase Run, mostly because I run Sanctum. I put it on left click, so whenever it is up, like now, I get a decent speed boost. And you can see its cooldown is pretty damn good. So I have it up quite a bit of the time, but you do not have to use that. You can use this 4-link to take your Summering Skitterbots, which is another thing we use, and do something like Bone Chill support on it to make them stronger, and things like that. You'll see an example of that more on the old POB that I'll put in the description. That kind of shows you where else you can go with it. That's basically it. For the shield, Grace, Hatred, Zealotry, you can go over those. Those are self-explanatory. For the boots, some more auras, Precision, Skitterbots, Discipline, and Frost Blink. That is using my movement skill. I love Frost Blink. Sometimes Flame Dash is better. Some people like it. Use your movement skill choice. I love this because I already do cold damage. It actually does pretty damn good damage for being a movement skill at the 10,000. Because of our cooldown, it's up all the time. Not to mention, it gets more cooldown for each rare unique monster in the area. So it comes up pretty often. It's pretty useful. And then our main damage scale again. You get the Cyclone with the Cast on Crit and the Ice Spear. Then Inspiration to help with the mana cost and some damage. Awaken Greater multiple projectiles. This is very expensive. You can just get normal Greater multiple projectiles. Just when you get the Awaken Greater, it is going to give you 5 additional projectiles instead of 4. Again, another projectile equals more damage. So it's nice, but expensive. I don't even know what they are now. But yeah, 20 Divine. So you could skip that for now. That's another thing you can just upgrade to. And yeah, that is the gems. Now, one of the things I really like about this build is you can always be upgrading at a relatively steady pace. I did not league start this. I do not suggest league starting this. If you ask me how to league start this, I will always say it's probably possible. I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how it would feel, but I imagine pretty damn crappy. But I started this with Poison SRS, which is an amazing starter, but after 3 or 4 days, again, I play a lot, so that's probably, a week or 2 for most people. There was no clear and cut upgrades anymore. It was a great build. I was able to do high-level Sanctums and do the normal bosses. I never tried to Uber boss with it, but I was just like, I don't really know where to go from here. Whereas with this build, there is almost always something you can upgrade. Some examples of this. You can get a normal 6-link Chevrons. I eventually upgraded and spent more currency and got one with +2 of level socketed projectile gems. That gives my Ice Spear 2 more levels. Again, it scales well with levels, so it is very handy. But you can get a normal chevrons and then upgrade into this. Cosprey, I got it corrupted with skills, fire, and additional projectiles. You're starting to see a pattern here. More projectiles, more damage. You know, the better it is. You can just get a normal Cosprey for now, which is what I suggest if you cannot afford an additional projectile. You can get a ring that gives you frostbite. I do not have one yet. Eventually I will get one. That is another upgrade I can do. You can get Mage Blood. That's a clear and obvious one for multiple reasons. That's good. If you're using a Crown the Inward Eye and you want more damage, you can upgrade into one of these by either crafting it. I'm obviously not going to go into that now. It'd be a 5-10 minute extra length in the video, but that is something you can upgrade to. You can trade for it. You do not have a good opal ring. These are great because they give elemental damage. You can get a lot of great mods on these also, or you can change this out for I believe the sapphire ring that has the Herald of Ice or Herald of Cold. Yeah, the Herald of Ice has increased buff effect. You can get that with a corrupted or with a mod, with +1 maximum power charges. You can get a normal ring with +1 maximum power charges in some of these mods. There's always something else to get. The Prism Guardian, you can get a corrupted version that has an extra +2 of socketed aura gems, giving these auras +4. There are great upgrades to this build that I have not done clearly. Whoa, okay, that was a long video, and I'm getting real tired of talking now, so I think I'm going to stop the video. But I hope that helped some people. I hope that made sense. That is Cast on Creo Ice Spear in a nutshell. It's my favorite build. I absolutely love it. It feels really good. It does a ton of boss damage. It's great for clearing. I just think it's just an amazing build. I highly suggest people try it. If you catch me on stream, so get followed on twitch.tv/SafeOnTalk, and you have more questions, or I missed something, or you need clarification on something, or if even something's broke, you know, head over to the Twitch stream while I'm on and send me your POB. Just say, hey, can you look at my POB real quick? I think something's broken or something doesn't feel right, and I will most of the time look at it unless I'm incredibly busy, which is very rare that I am. I don't think I've ever turned down trying to help someone if I can. So like and subscribe and drop a comment down below guys, if you plan on doing this build, or if you played this build and you like this build. Always nice to meet some Cast on Creo Ice Spear enjoyers. The real hardcore cock enjoyers are always good people. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.